You know, a lot of times when it's like I have nothing to say, but I know there's like a feeling in there. You know, you could put on lipstick in public. And I find myself getting like a real front row seat to how men are not supposed to be and what we're not supposed to do. And sometimes there's a lot of power in it. Power to the sense of, you know, watching people, men in particular, get uncomfortable. It's provoking, provocative, and it's a confirmation of how I've always felt. You know.
I'm sorry, I have to stop. We have to close both doors.
Yeah. They ain't paying to see the show. Don't let them in.
Okay, and kitchen window, please. Because the meter is jumping off.
What?
The kitchen window.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Johnny.
It's, you know, it's again how men aren't supposed to be. I mean, whether I'm in a dress, whether I'm in pants, I'm a faggot. I mean, it's something that I've known, you know, since day one, by the way I carry myself, by my thinness, you know. What I'm doing for me is dealing with it, dealing with being a thin, effeminate man in a community that can't recognize that can't deal with it, that, you know, we have to have the body beautiful, we have to be, you know, we have to, like, think from a visceral space. We can't have arm movements. We're very restricted, and I've never felt like that's where I want it to be, that's what I understand. I don't understand that. I completely don't understand that. And sitting there in a restaurant or someplace, or in a meeting, in a coordination meeting, in an active meeting, in any kind of meeting, and we're all talking about how evolved we are, how PC, and seeing how uncomfortable people get by a man putting on lipstick, I have to ask myself, are we really that nonconformist as we profess to be? And I think there's a real danger in you know, playing with these things, playing with these props and these things, because you know, you put yourself out there. It's like you're a gypsy. You're really exiling yourself. You don't have a country. You know, when I hear people talk about community, I've never understood that term. It doesn't apply to being queer. I don't think it applies to being gay, because I don't feel that as a community we've ever really supported each other. I don't think we know how to support each other. I don't think we've learned that. I think, in particular with men, I think we bought a package a long time ago that we could deal with each other specifically on a sexual level, but anything other than that, I don't think we've ever been entitled to understand or been privileged to. And, you know, I got a problem with this part of this queer sensibility saying that, you know, men coupling or women coupling, well, it's hetero imitative behavior. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know, it's something that's given to you as a human being, and why would anybody want to sacrifice that? And I see us doing that. I see us saying we're so liberated, we're so this and we're that, and I personally, I feel I'm one of the most dysfunctional, socially retarded people I know, and you know, I'm happy with it. I'm happy sticking my feet in it and going, okay, you know, I got to start from A, but I will get to Z. Maybe not in this lifetime, but I'd rather that than give lip service, because I know what I come from. I come from, you know, white trash, racist, bigots, you know, low class, and that's what's created this person, and I think there's a lot of power in that, because you know where you come from. You know, you don't make apologies for it. It's part of you. And I think in particular in the gay society that those things, that formula doesn't work, or that, you know, composition of a person doesn't work, because it's very status and image conscious. Again, going back to the body beautiful, to the right car, to the right zip code, the ghetto. You know, I don't feel that hetero society has done that to us. We've done that to ourselves for whatever reason, either coming into the big city to feel comfortable, to relate, or, you know, whatever it might be. We've done that to ourselves, and we can continue to do that. This thing, going down the street on a 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, this is me. This is a part of me. I'm not saying I'm stealing this from Judy Grant's book, Another Country. I mean, Another Mother Tongue. That was a famous movie, wasn't it?
That was another peanut butter.
Yeah. Another Skippy. Is that she said, coming out, that, you know, a woman cutting off her hair as short as she can and still maintaining a job, and going into a store and purchasing a pair of men's shoes, what a challenge that was. I understand that. I really understand that. When you go into a store and you try on a dress, they need to charge admission. People line up to watch you, you know, and I'm still amazed. Sometimes I'm like just in the moment, and and then I catch myself being really observed, and I realize that being queer, we live very stark lives. We live lives that are constantly being monitored and scrutinized, and it doesn't just have to be from the outside. It's what we do to ourselves. It's how we monitor and scrutinize ourselves. I mean, you know, I was telling my friends this afternoon, it's like somebody had wrote me a letter and said, you know, I live a very examined life. Well, I think all queers do. You have to. I mean, you have to be very conscious of, you know, you might be in a room of, you know, of people, and you might slip and use the word fabulous. That gives you away as being a queer, as a faggot. And I'm finding I don't have time for that. And the dresses and the lipstick and, you know, the fag drag is not a man emulating a woman. It's another aspect of being a man. It's an aspect that we're not entitled to, that's taken away from us. As a woman is not entitled to be masculine, to be assertive, to take care of business, you know. She must be a dyke because she could take care of herself. You know, a man in a dress, it's like, you know, I feel more comfortable. Somebody once said to me in a meeting, you know, you choose this. No, this chose me. This chose me when it chose me to be queer. You know, this is a part of me. And I'm becoming more and more comfortable in it, in a world that's becoming increasingly uncomfortable with it. You know, it's like saying, that there's a liberation, there's Stonewall. I don't think anything's happened since 1969, to be honest with you, because I sense a lot of danger from the man's community with each other. We're very You leaving, girl?
Yeah. I'll stop them there.
Thanks for the scones, girl. I love them.
I'm taking the car.
It was very nice meeting you.
But how long? Are you gonna be here, or should I come here, or where should I pick you up?
What time is it?
5. I'll be
It's
done
5?
by. I'll be done by 7.
It's 7? We're in Hollywood. We
No,
can
I'm
probably
just
meet.
saying.
Where can we meet?
I can meet you here. Or I can meet you at 6.
We can meet you at 6. Meet at 6.
Can you guys get there?
Yeah.
How, Jen?
Yeah, don't
No,
walk.
we'll do it.
Can anybody give him a ride over to 6?
We'll figure
We're
it
all
out.
bussers.
I
drive a motorcycle,
You do
but
a
I don't
bus,
know. Then
you
why
take
don't
a
you be
taxi.
here?
It's no big deal.
Okay. Exactly. So, well, you can take the subway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Amtrak personally.
Okay. So, all right. So I'll meet you over at 6 then.
This is my film debut and you're fucking it up.
Get
You're stealing my moment.
You stole his 15 minutes.
Honey, considering who I am, you know I would.
Well, Miss Thing, you owe me 13 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'll give you airtime on my new sitcom. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. This is great. Nice
Good night. Nice meeting you.
You know how I get around camera, Johnny. It's always be on
You're so
video.
camera shy, girl.
No. All right. See you later. Okay.
Keep it out.
Now, what was I saying
Might
before
be
that?
locked.
Before
Is it-
that,
is it-
then Dyke interrupted me. Dyke is interrupted.
Bye.
I heard you guys in the kitchen breaking ice and I couldn't see the meter, so I'm not worried. The
How
meter
about some
wasn't checking
questions? Yeah,
much.
maybe I think I'd like to.
Yeah,
let's just rip
start with a
this
format. Okay, you
Yeah.
want to take a break?
No, I'm okay.
You okay?
I'm
Let me see. What would you like to see him touch on?
yeah.
I'd like to see you touch on I remember when's. Like when you were growing up, letting us to know you a little bit more about
Where this
who
come
is
from?
Johnny,
Oh, okay.
you know,
You know, I
and
mean,
how.
you said you're starting to get used to it.
Yeah,
But
I think yeah,
when
that's
did-
pretty good.
You know,
Yeah. You
You're
guys
saying-
really want to get in here, don't you?
Yeah. I mean,
But as much as you want to let people know.
Yes, but don't force him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm comfortable talking about it. Actually, I think it's that time. you
Yeah.
know? You want to know where I come from? I came from a coal mining town in Pennsylvania that was incredibly crooked, politically. I mean, it was really a frightening place to be. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Really corrupt. Really, really corrupt. But you know what? The faggots ran the town. It was unbelievable. It was like Pasolini film. Really, it was like Cello. It really was. Anything and everything went on, and it was very, I'd say it was underground, but people knew, they just didn't want to pay attention to it. Okay. I was born a bastard, and I think with that, you know, part of it is that you don't have the social graces that other people have. And perhaps that gives me my edge, or part of my reason for pushing things and questioning things. It's like, you know, I've never felt comfortable, you know, because, geez, maybe I should start a movement for bastards, you know, like VA Bastards Anonymous or something. But I had an amazing childhood. I really did. I was raised by my grandmother and her black boyfriend Clyde, who were just the most beautiful people you'd ever want to meet. My grandfather was my grandfather was a Beardash Indian. I mean, he was a Beardash. She was Arkansas Blackfoot, and I can remember he lived up in the Poconos, which at one time was an Indian reservation, and no electricity, no plumbing, the whole bit. You know, talk about the Beverly Hillbillies. But he was this real cuckoo case. I could never figure it out. We'd go to visit him, and he'd be running around in a skirt and no shirt, lighting his sage and doing his things, and I would just torment him. I would take his cane and run in the woods and have him chase me and watch him fall over tree stumps and laugh at him. You know, those horrible things that kids do. And I just couldn't figure it out. But I knew on some level that I wasn't to be around him. It was kind of like a taboo. There was a distance that had always been maintained by outside family members or family members when around him. But I remember him. I remember seeing him, like, you know, with the evergreen trees around him, and his bony chest and his skirts running around, and it's just something I never questioned. It's just something that was him, you know. And I remember when he died. It was the first time I'd been to a funeral. It was like, you know, my grandmother made me, you know, experience death. She made me experience his funeral in particular. You know, there's part of me that says, I think they put him on fire. I mean, it seemed like that would be something they would do, wouldn't it? Native American, I don't know. But they had him, like, I remember they had him in this, like, it was like a little wooden room that had been built, you know, for this funeral, and they had him on this big, like, platform. So he was almost like you didn't have to bend down. He was like, you know, you almost like walked into him. And I remember they had this little stairwell that they made for me, so I could climb up and spend time with him, which meant, you know, climbing to the top of these stairs and, like, you know, holding him, putting my hand on him, and, you know, and that was something my grandmother made me experience, and I didn't feel uncomfortable with it, you know. His image, I'll never forget his image. He has the most amazing profile I've ever seen, and I really have a thing for noses, and it probably came from him. He had this beautiful hook nose, and it was very strong, and jet black hair, and these bones that just kind of like just jutted out at you. And there was such an intensity about this man. He was just magnificent. But I remember experiencing that with my grandmother, and, you know, my grandmother was like the talk of this village because she had moved down to the city. They divorced, and she was, you know, seeing Clyde, the black man, and, you know, and they would dress me up in this little suit and take me to the bars around town in the daytime and teach me to dance. They'd put out a little footstool and I would dance, and they would dress me up, and my grandmother would put on her mules. They are backless high heels for those of you who don't know what they are. And her little tight house dresses on tons of jewelry with, I think it was henna or Rue, R-U-X number 5 red dye. And they would take me through the town, and it was just amazing how people would respond to us. It was like these three oddities, this boy in the little suit, and the woman with the flaming red hair, and, you know, the black man that looked like Cab Calloway in 1959. You know, it was just really amazing. And I remember my first boyfriend, Billy. I was about 7. I was about 7 years old, and there was this beautiful boy. His name was Billy Turner. He was tall, thin, you know, kind of bony, white trash, crooked teeth, you know, that white blonde hair, kind of stringy. And he used to steal things from me. He used to steal, like, scooters from me. He would steal all kinds of things. And one day he stole a milk truck, a Burchell milk truck from me. And we got in a lot of trouble driving around town. He was this, you know, 13-year-old kid with this 6 or 7-year-old boy, and we're riding around town in a stolen milk truck. And I had the first time I knew that I experienced some kind of love for someone of the same sex. It was for Billy. It was this real heartwarming thing, which sounds very Disney, very Spielberg, very loud, but it was this feeling. It was this incredible warmth that just kind of came in here, and I would get silent around him. It was really beautiful. It was really, really, really special. And I knew it was something that was for real. My grandmother was taking me to Germany to get away from my crazy stepfather who my mother had just married. And she was kidnapping me, actually. And Billy came in and he says to me, you know, I want you to come with me to our fort, and I want you to, you know, do something with me. I thought, oh, okay, you know. So we went under the porch, and it was, you know, dirty and stank, and it was all musty and dusty and all this. And I remember there was like lattice, you know, the lattice work all around, and the sun was kind of coming in, and it was still dark and dusty. and he says to me, and mine I had one of my little suits on. He said to me, I have this pot here. It was this big white enamel pot, and this is what I want to do. I'm going to shit in it, and I want you to shit in it. And I didn't get it, but I didn't have to get it. It seemed like such a natural thing. So he shat in the pot, which is, somebody said this to me, that word shat. I don't know what that is, but it's like he shat in the pot. And I pulled my pants down to shit in the pot, and I slipped and I fell in. And nothing seemed, it just seemed like, oh well, you know. And I remember the taxi, there was a taxi outside blowing the horn to take us to the airport. And I didn't experience anything of ill feeling or that anything was wrong until I stepped outside in the sun and the way the adults treated me. Yes, I had shit on my ass and on my drawers and all that stuff, but it was that feeling that something so natural and beautiful had just been stolen from me. And I forgot this memory for the longest time until about 3 years ago. I saw a sun coming through this dusty piece of lattice work, and the image came up, and I remembered him, and that feeling that I had experienced for one man after that in my adult life, that really beautiful kind of warmth where you feel safe, I had experienced. And I think of Billy, I think of him a lot now. He was really special. He was really a beautiful person. And that was my first homoerotic experience. But the dresses, how did Johnny get into dresses? Well, I'll tell you. I left home when I was about 15. I was like thrown out, actually. I had a really horrendous stepfather and, you know, maniacal mother. It was just, you know, the all-American family. I left home and in search of platform shoes, actually. Yeah, that's what it was, in search of platform shoes. And I moved down to the city. My parents, you know, they wanted the perfect white life, so they moved up into this resort, which was, you know, I actually think it was a Klan convention. I mean, these people were really fucking scary, but, you know, I got through it. I left when I was about 15, moved down to the city, and I was immediately taken by the drag queens, the Contessa, the Marcella Diller, Mona Monar, Ubangi Woman. They took me in. And it was a kind of thing where I immediately felt like I belonged. I immediately felt like I understood. I immediately felt like there was a language. And of course the natural thing to do at 15 at that time would have been to get out and hustle, which I wasn't very good at because I was a real bitch. And yes, that's a sexist term, but that's how I was described. And I was described that way a few months ago in Coronation, so I guess it fits. Yeah, I was a bitch. I was beautiful. I was tall, thin, long hair, and new face, you know, new meat. So I remember, like, I just couldn't get into this sexual thing with guys. So Ubangi women taught me this thing, you know, get them drunk, then hit them in the head and roll them. So that's what I would do. But I was really good at it because there was just something about me that these guys, I'd see them afterwards and they'd say, Johnny, I really didn't like what you did, but do you want some money? And I was doing well, but this time I had, like, you know, gotten 3 jobs, and I was like taking care of myself, and I was supporting some of the drags. You know, they'd fall off their habit or fall onto their habit, or their man would lose them, and, you know, all this other crazy shit that, you know, the drama queens do. And I understood that. I really understood that. And there was a beauty in it. And it's not to glorify, you know, this dysfunction, because I didn't see it as dysfunction. I saw it as a real slice of our heritage. I saw it as a real part of who we are as a subculture. I saw men that, you know, the transformation, I would take all my hetero friends and we'd sit in my living room at the age of like 16, 17 in a circle, and the Contessa would be in the middle of the room with a vanity doing this transformation that would just blow you the fuck away. You know, shaving the hair and plucking the brows and using this and that. And within 2 hours you'd see one of the most incredible creatures you'd ever experienced. And how the body would change, how the form and the movements. It was amazing. It was really amazing. And I just found it to be a sacred thing, almost like a mystic thing would happen. What would come over that room? Men and women would just sit there, and you'd see this beautiful creature emerge and enter this world that was not welcoming at all, and it didn't matter, you know. She knew what she was doing, and you called her she because that showed that you respected her, you know. It wasn't what I hear a lot now. What I hear a lot now is, hey girl, and she and this. I hear it in a kind of way that seems sometimes to touch on self-loathing, you know. But when you call her she or girl or, you know, a queen, I mean, she was a queen. That was royalty, you know, and that's a part of our culture that is, I feel, is virtually non-existent now. And I learned a lot from the Contessa. I learned a lot from Naomi and these people. I learned a lot about love, unconditional love, that the things I'd experienced, and some of these things were really fucking horrible, really horrible. I mean, you know, attempted rapes by men by the virtue that, yeah, I was effeminate and I flaunted, you know, the fact that I wore high heels and tight pants and long hair. I never did the makeup, and I didn't wear dresses, but I had a way about me that was flamboyant. That's just what I know. It's like, you know, being a boy and told that you had to sit like this and all of these mannerisms. You know, you don't have your wings, you know, your fairy wings, they've been clipped, and it hurts, and you feel this, sometimes this intrusion into your body. And then when you find that you have these wings and they kind of open, and they reveal this person that is just far from world weary. Things are very new for you. Things are very fresh and vital for you. That's what I was experiencing. And I found that, you know, the outside can be very hostile. You know, in particular men. Men want to destroy that. They want to capture that. And I had some really horrible experiences. And these people were there for me without question, without doubt. There was such a consistency that I had an experience in my life up to that point that it was startling. It was really startling. And what they went through, it was an art. It was just, you talk about art imitating life. The Contessa, she'd walk around in a $4,000, you know, Jimmy Galanos gown, go into the supermarket and say, do you take checks? They'd say no, and she'd pull out food stamps. Okay? And I would just be blown away. Okay? She would get this gown on loan because she was that flamboyant, because she was that much of a, I don't know what, some kind of icon, I guess, I don't know. And it just would blow me away. There was respect, there was almost homage paid to her, and people like her. And then when the world didn't want it anymore, they would destroy these kind of people. They were the first to go. And that's what I see in our history. That's what I see in our legacy. Yeah, the drag, Stonewall, yeah, it's fucking bullshit. People say that to patronize, because in the same sense, in the same sentence, you know, there's very few men that'll sit alone or in a group of other men with a drag queen, with a full-blown drag queen. There's very few men that will experience her in a room of other men, you know. So when they say Stonewall, and you know, hey, lip service, you know. I'd like to start a movement where we take, you know, gay men hostage and put them in high heels and crazy glue eyelashes on them, and, you know, make them experience it. Let them take a few licks and see, you know, hey, what this part of being a man is all about. You know, that you don't have to forfeit that part of you, and that's what we do. And these queens knew that. They knew that. It's like they knew. Somebody said a couple months ago, it's like the drags understand the real dilemma of having cosmetic muscles and no place to flex them, and that's it. That's it. And these people are all gone. You know, an epidemic came out 14, 15 years ago, and they were calling it pneumonia, they were calling it cancer, they were calling it this and that, and it wiped them all out. They were the first to go. And that was my family. And this is part of them. that's a part of me that the person that I am, I kind of put on hold for a while. To be married to another man, to do the right thing, to be almost invisible, to be accepted. To deny a vital part of myself for the sake of politeness to society, for a companion that was just as dysfunctional, and a relationship as dysfunctional as society. And then I started to get healthy and reclaim my history and what I'm about, and get angry at something that's taking away my current history, the people in my life now. That I bring red nightgowns to, so they could walk down the hall and be the queen that they are, because they're dying.
What are they dying of, Johnny?
They're dying of AIDS. They're dying of AIDS. They're dying of a disease that we still can't talk about. That we cling onto these images of these men that are big and defined and muscular and healthy, and that's not who we are. That's a part of us. But the reality is that's not who we are. We're a bunch of people that are hurt, that are suffering, that have an incredible fight ahead of us. And we can't fucking get along with each other. We can't deal with each other. We can't embrace another being in this subculture. I don't mean acceptance. Fuck acceptance. Acceptance is to be controlled. I'm not talking about acceptance. I'm talking about embrace them. You know, a few minutes ago we talked about this sticker that says an attack on one of us is attack. That's bullshit. That looks great on Kool-Aid orange or lemon yellow orange with big black bold letters. That's not a reality. The reality is we're running for the hills. It's coming at us from all angles. We got our own shit to deal with as a person, and we have a society that really wants to see us in the ground, and I do believe that. You know, you're an immoral lot. And the drags, they've always been on the fringe, and by God, they'll always be on the fringe. They'll always be on the edge. And yeah, that's where they belong. Because I know what they gave me, and I know what they give me every time I put on a dress, or every time I get out there and provoke and prod and be a faggot in your face without any apologies, without any excuses. They gave me that. It was wonderful times with these people, wonderful, lots of laughs. There'd be days that we wouldn't go to bed. We'd be up all night. And I don't mean drug induced, and you know, I mean we would just be so high in life and just craziness and what faggots and dykes do best, you know. Philosophizing, I mean, you name it. You name it, we were experiencing it. And it just kind of stopped. One day it all just stopped. It's like, you know, people say, well, you know, people of color don't have their voice. Women don't have their voice. They don't. But you know what? Faggots don't have their voice. Men in dresses don't have their voice. If you're walking around in a set of, you know, tits in a bra and a dress, trying to do your favorite Hollywood character, whether it's Shirley MacLaine or whether it's Barbara Streisand or Liza Minnelli, that's okay. You know, the heteros and the faggots will pay to see that. But if you're out in the street in a dress and combat boots and this and that, you're called a Nazi, you're called a fascist, you're called... Yeah, you know, I am probably all of those things to these people. That's their reality, let them have it. You know, I don't have time to, you know, mental masturbate and dance with these people. That's their images, that's their images. But to me, that's the freedom, that's the liberation. Fuck everything else, you know? Somebody said to me, you know, well, what's it like to be HIV positive? I don't know. I'm not HIV positive. Oh, well, you know, I assumed because, you know, you run around the way you do and you're so in your face that, you know, and I thought, you know what? This is typical. This is really typical. If I was a woman, what would I be? I'd be an hysterical woman. I'm a faggot running around a dress, so I'm angry and motivated and I activate because I have a disease. You know? It's that and it's 10,000 other things. It's 10,000 other things. You know? It's having to talk sometimes softer and slower and quieter because you're a faggot and you intimidate this person or this one, or you're walking down the street and you see a woman grab her kid by the arm like you're going to grab him and fucking recruit him, you know? This does hit you. It does affect you. We could laugh at it and we could say, you know what? But there's a real grim reality in that, you know? Fear no queer. Bub Kiss. That's another classic. We're feared. And I think we should embrace that. We should embrace it. Because that's a part of us. That's a part of us that does provoke and prod and stimulate and do all these things. You know, you look at us, we're an incredibly creative, loving lot. And a lot of times I don't feel that way. I don't feel that we're that way towards each other. You know, we're always looking for support and acceptance and this and that outside of this so-called community. That's bullshit, you know? That's bullshit. You know, I know that the support I got and the caring I got, I was hit by a car, you know, in a society that just kind of says, well, this, that, and this, you know, bureaucratic shit. I was supported by the heteros, not the gay community, not the queers. And the real work, the real revolution starts within our own neighborhood, within this ghetto. When we get out of that ghetto, the bashing starts in that ghetto, not outside there with the heteros and this and that, because, you know, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck on many levels. And on many levels they do. They do, you know. But a lot of us have lost our families. My family was taken away from me a long time ago. And one of the beauties about being queer is that you have this opportunity to develop a family for yourself. You pick and choose your family. And I think as far as heteros are taking that cue from us. Their marriages don't work, their this doesn't work, their that doesn't work. They're looking at us now, you know. We're the ones burying our own time and time again. They're looking to us for cues. They always have. I mean, I believe they've always looked for us, not just for fashion sense, but, you know, social values. in a subculture that I don't think understands that they have them, that we have them. And I know I'm really bashing the community, but yeah, it needs to be fucking bashed. It needs to be bashed, you know. When you walk down the street in a dress and you're feeling, when I'm feeling loving, when I'm feeling like I don't have that edge, when I'm feeling that for those stolen moments I could be vulnerable, I could be available, and I met with shit, a lot of violence. And it's not from the hetero community, it's from the gay community. How dare you represent us in such a way? You know, it's their issue. And I say, issue? Yeah, you give me an issue, I'll give you a tissue, you could wipe my ass. You know, this is what I'm doing for me. You know, I'm claiming myself and my family, you know. And there is an edge of anger with it, because a lot's been taken away from me. And I'll be damned if I'll have anything else taken away from me. You know? You talk about violence. It's such, you know, we're a non-violent group of people. Fuck yeah, we've been beaten down since day one. You know, I was telling a friend of mine the other day about the Contessa. I remember when I was like about 16, 17, we're going to this club. She looked amazing. I mean, you know, she had like a canary yellow sarong on with the fringe and, you know, stockings and, you know, Charles Jourdan heels and, you know, yellow halter top of this incredible Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm kind of hat that went on for 3 blocks with branches and things. And mind you, this is the middle of December, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're walking down this city street on the way to the club, and this old Pontiac pulls up, and these, you know, 4 guys come running out to, you know, kick the shit out of the faggots. And the Contessa says, now honey, you stay put, let mother take care of this. Takes off good old Charlie Jourdan through this guy's cranium, wipes it off, puts it back in her heel. Come on girl, we're going to the club. And these guys just booked. And I was stunned. I never forgot that image, and I never forgot that feeling that ran through me. The first reaction was, this was a horrible, horrible thing. That someone walking down the street in all of this finery and plumage and would be met with such a hostile reaction that 4 guys would have to take out 2 faggots that are walking down the street. They're not entitled to walk down the street. They warrant someone beating them up and leaving them there. And she wouldn't take it. She understood. She gave them what they would have given us, and they didn't expect it. And I had to do that about a month ago, about 5 weeks ago. And it was something I learned from her. And if I hadn't had that experience, I would have had my head put through a window. Because that's what you're met with. 8 guys, 8 gay men, gay boys, coming up to me, you know, grabbing their cock and saying all these, you know, disgusting, pathetic things that I'm supposed to take into consideration because I'm in a dress and heels. You know, that's the real revolution. That's the revolution. When you face the enemy, and it's not out there, it's within us, and it's within our subculture. That's the real enemy in here. I couldn't dialogue with these people. I wanted to, but I couldn't. They came at me in this wave, and I felt a mob mentality. I felt a rape mentality. And what was interesting, what they took from me was my earrings. Somebody had made me a pair of earrings, you know, guns, and they took them out of my ears without ripping my lobes, and they took my high heels. You know, I suppose that that's what had separated me from them, you know. Maybe it was going to empower them. I don't know what it was, but that's what they decided to take. No fucking way. You ain't taking this girl's $29.99 Fredericks high heel size 14. I will fight you. And I did. I ran after them. And it came over me. And I found myself saying, how dare you? These are mine. You have no fucking right. And they didn't expect that. And then they came around and came back at me. But this time I had size 14, $29.99 in my hand, and I put it through his cranium, wiped it off, put it back on my heel, and they came at me again, took my other one and went across somebody's face with it. And then asked them if they still wanted to take me home and fuck me in front of their mother. And they ran. And as they ran, they got about 25, 30 feet away and turned around and called me a fucking queen. And I said, yeah, you're right on, I am a fucking queen. And you'll think twice next time you fuck with a queen. With a capital Q. And the next day, I was really affected by that. That I hit my brother in the head.
This was from
Yeah.
Marshall, you gonna do something with the dog? I said tape up his chain, because his chain is clinking too loud. His two doodads. That's good. Here, behave. And if you get his bone, it will help. Bone, not a little chew bone. Something to for him to chew.
Like these?
Huh? No. Something. Yeah.
He wants to run around.
Well, then I guess we'll have to put him outside or in the bathroom or something. With you. Take a bath with him, okay? That will shut him up.
Marshall, cigarette.
Oh, I forget to say.
Not a very good script, girl, I'm sorry.
It's supposed to be the gopher.
Okay, PA.
Bring on the fluffer.
Okay. Here, if you decide you want.
Are we rolling?
Yeah,
We're rolling.
you can take it when you want.
Yeah, so I had a lot of remorse about that, and then as my feelings I went through them, as I explored my inner hitman, I would do it again. Because I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve these people coming at me that way, or any way. And on one side I want to say I'm not advocating violence, and on the other side I'm saying by whatever means necessary. And all over town I keep, and it's like the first thing that get torn down is queers read this. And on the bottom it says, victories are not given, victories are taken. And they're the first thing that the queers tear down. You know, that's offensive, that's militant, that's this. Well, you know what? Yeah. That's where this is going for me. You know, I won't accept a lot of things anymore. Whether it's inside the subculture or outside. I have to make a space for myself. And I have to develop a voice for myself because it's been taken away from me from a very long time. And I can't accept it anymore. And a lot of times when I go into that room on Saturday nights, I have to fight for my voice. I go in there in a dress and I'm dismissed. I'm some tart in a dress who doesn't have nothing to say, you know. It's convoluted, it's this, it's that. Well, perhaps it is on some of those evenings, but I do have a lot to say. And whether it's at that room or another room, I will say it. Because it's claiming my history. And I can't accept any more things taken away from me. My sexuality is taken away from me. I mean, it's like how I express myself with another man. You know, we can't talk about that as a culture. As a culture, forget it. As a subculture, it's fucking worse. You can't talk about your asshole. You can't talk about a cock. You can't talk about any of this. You just can't. AIDS phobia. Yeah, there's AIDS phobia, but there's sex phobia. You know, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about, how we desire, a man's dick in our ass, because right away that makes us less than a man. We can't talk about how we want to taste this man, how we want them to experience us. We can't talk about that, and if we do, it's this kind of thing where we separate. Well, my belief is that your sexuality and your spirituality, it's all the same. It's all part of. And I think for so long we've been told as this culture, as this subculture, that you can't have it all, You're a faggot and therefore you think below the belt buckle. That's what motivates you. That's what this. All men are pigs and da-da-da. Well, yeah, perhaps we are all of these things, but you know what? There's a coming together. And we've given that up. We've given that up, and I'm fighting for that for me. I'm fighting that for me because that's a fullness of me. And I think that that's my own opinion about AIDS phobia or an epidemic, is that on some level we are participating in this program that we are an immoral lot. And if you people didn't get fucked up the ass, you wouldn't have created this epidemic. If you people weren't so promiscuous, you wouldn't have created this epidemic. I think on some levels we've bought that. I know I have. And I can't accept that anymore. I can't accept it. I can't accept when I'm walking down the street and I've just left a hospice, I'm on my way to another one, and I get a call from somebody that's coming in from Europe because their son is dying, that I haven't seen in 5 years, and I'm walking down Santa Monica Boulevard, and what do I see? The Body Beautiful sitting in front of Rage and Mickey's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, having cocktails, anesthetizing themselves that this is not happening. This is not happening. When in fact, probably 56% of the men in West Hollywood are HIV positive. But this isn't happening. I get furious. I get furious. I don't know where to take this a lot of times. And I become confrontive, and and then sometimes it works through a dress, sometimes it's whatever vehicle I can use to get it out there, and have people question it, because it is a universal thing. It's not a personal thing anymore. It's a universal thing, and we need to take responsibility for it. And I don't see us doing it. It's like it's fucking insidious. It hits on so many levels. There's walls everywhere. Those that are dying, sometimes they don't let us in. It's us against them, and them against us, and I don't know. Is this part of the package? Is this maybe this part of this divide and conquer theory? I don't know. What I'm trying to say, I guess what I'm trying to confirm, is that I don't believe there is a community. I don't believe there's a community because a community is based on needs, when it understands its needs. We don't know what the fuck our needs are. We're still getting our heads out of our ass going, oh, the drag queen started Stonewall in 1969, Judy Garland died, and well, that was 1969, it's fucking 1992, okay? and we're beating up drag queens. People of color are not welcome to 90069. Women, you're okay if you're down at Little Frida's or if you're at the Palms, but don't take your ass up to 90069 because you're not welcome. That's Boytown. But in 1969, you know, well, again, it's not 1969. You know, and I'm guilty. I'm fucking more guilty than anybody. You know, I'm sitting here doing this. I'm at the same token. I'm saying, no, we should have our own radio station. We should have our own fucking television network. We should be educating young queers so when they're driving down a fucking bus and, you know, their heart's in their throat because they look like a faggot and they're gonna get pounced and they could look out the window and they could see a picture of Oscar Wilde saying famous queer and this is what he did. We don't do that. We don't fucking do that. And we eat our young. Young queers come into this community and they're devoured. You either fit this image or you just don't make it. And we're still doing it. You know? We got the young queers running around going, Madonna, Madonna. She's fucking exploiting us. She's raping us. You know? Again, like when the drag queen enters the room, she's on, the room's on, there's the drag, she's knows what she's gonna do today. It's the same thing with somebody like Madonna or these other, you know, tag-alongs. They got the hot taboo of the year, homosexuality. Let's exploit it, let's make money off of it. You know? And what is she doing? She's the world's most organized whore. To quote Morrissey, who knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Johnny, the last little bit, can you say your dream? Your dream for yourself, your dream
I
for
want to
the
be a
community.
brain surgeon and bring world peace and drive a Range Rover and get a dog named Sushi.
Experience, strength, and hope.
My experience, strength, and hope. Oh boy. Oh, you know, my dream, it's you know, my hope. My hope. There's a lot of things that run through my mind with that word. What comes to mind is sound, incredibly loud sounds, you know, the kind of sounds that you'd probably hear in you know, like an air raid siren, that people know that we're on the face of this planet, that we're being wiped out and it's not our fault. And we have just as many rights, if not more, because of what's been done to us. The Holocaust that we've experienced and the Holocaust that we're now experiencing all over again. That will be heard, will be seen. And they will learn from us the way that we had to dig under rocks, behind closed doors, and all the secret compartments to find and are still searching for our history. We won't have to do that anymore. We won't have to do that anymore. We'll not only claim our history, we'll start creating another history, an even more powerful and fruitful history. We won't be intimidated by the masculine, butch, dyke. We won't be threatened by the femme faggot in a dress. We'll find that all of these things are part of us in here, and we'll learn new ways of loving. And now before I go and join the commune, And that there's other ways of being a man besides wanting to be the Marlboro Man. And there's the day when we could walk away from latex and safe sex, and walk away from the flip side to safe sex, which is safe love. And we don't fall in love anymore. That we will fall in love. That's what it means to me.
Like to add? I love you. You're a great guy. I respect you and put you on a pedestal. I know it's wrong, but I do. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Ooh, I want to give you a hug and there's too many wires.
Girl, turn those heats down. I ain't got no sunscreen on.
Ooh, thank you for being you.